My name is Andy Silvagni, and I am our APN's alumni coordinator. All right, so we're sitting down with Jason R today, and we're just excited to hear about his journey to APN and after APN. So that being said, we're just going to dive into it. Jason, when did you come to APN, and what brought you to APN?
Yeah, I arrived there April of last year, so a little bit over 16 months now. And what got me to APN was really, I was struggling with addiction and mental health for years, going on. I think at that point, it was like 5 or 6 years of ongoing addiction. And I really got to the point where I needed help, and I didn't know how to get that help. And, through things that were going on in my life, I really just got to the point where I knew the time was then or never. So I knew I didn't get help when I needed it. I didn't know what was next. So really got to the point where I had enough and I was ready to make that internal change.
What was the aha moment while you were there?
I often reflect on where I was then and where I am now. And I remember having a conversation with my wife before I left that, we may not see it now at the time, but I'm going to get back to myself. And that was my goal, because through my addiction, I lost myself. I didn't know who I was, where I was, what I was doing. Everything was just get me to that next high. Like, I just want to get high, just want to use. And I lost myself. So one of the things that I thrive on is relationships, meaningful relationships, not just, hey, how's it going, but meaningful relationships. And when I got to APN, right away, I felt that, everyone there, including the staff, the other clients, like I related to them on a level that I've never related to anyone before. So that was so important for me to be able to connect with other people on such a deep, meaningful level, that I was able to start feeling myself. I was able to start feeling like, because I always had this emptiness inside, and I was shooting for, the drugs and alcohol to fill that. And I knew it wasn't working. And I just couldn't figure out for so long what was wrong. Like, I just didn't know. I tried therapy, I tried medication, I tried self-medication, I tried, obviously addiction, but like, it was very simple to me, which was that you just need meaningful relationships. And throughout the time there, I don't think there was a time where I felt, almost instantly, like I felt like cared about, and I felt like I can contribute to other people's recovery as well, whether it's mental health or addiction. But just thriving off those relationships was probably the biggest aha moment that I had, because it was, I don't know if there was a specific time where I was like, this is working, versus I started feeling like Jason again. I started feeling like like before I loved anyone else, I started loving myself. Right. And like, that's where it starts, because you have to be confident with where you are, who you are, and what you're doing, because that's what it takes these days, in recovery. That's what it takes. So I would say that, I don't know if there's any other part of the question I missed, but that's
no, perfect. Well, also kind of like deviating from that a little bit, but they say addiction is about connection, right? We're just trying to connect, and we connect to like drugs, or whether it's a process addiction through gambling or through sex. We're looking to connect. How is your relationships with some of the people that you met there? Because you're in that vulnerable spot of like, hey, we're in rehab, we're out in beautiful Edwards, Colorado, but like, hey, that's a different place for a lot of people. How did those connections, like you talked about, support you, and how did you support others, and are you maintaining those connections now that you've been gone?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for people who haven't been to treatment, like, I don't know if they fully understand the amount of deep turmoil that you go through, right? And when you go through that with other people, there's automatically a relationship there that you'll never have with anyone else, right? And obviously, like, not everyone, and the truth is not everyone makes it out. Not everyone makes it out and stays clean or stays their path that they were set on. And it's unfortunate. But, in treatment itself, like those relationships carried me, because I would go through, it allowed me to open up more. There was no reservation. And granted, I wasn't close with every single person there. But at the end of the day, the people that I were close with, like if I had a hard group therapy, or a hard group, like I had people, right? It wasn't just me going back to my room and sitting there. Sometimes it was, because that's necessary. But you had those people coming up to you. Literally, I actually had other people crying for me, and like not for themselves, but and that's something that you don't get everywhere. And in terms of how I maintain those relationships now, there are definitely a good amount of people that I keep up with every single day. And that's 16 going on 16, 17 months, whatever it's been. There hasn't been a day that's gone by where I haven't connected with a couple people. And I had recently had a child. People from treatment flew in for that. Like this is family for me. It's 100% family. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that segue, about your son, was part of my next question. Like, since you've left APN, like how's life, right? How's your family life? How's your professional life? What's your recovery life? How are you maintaining that balance of mental health, and whether it's addiction, how are you keeping that balance? I do know that you had a child since you left, which is awesome. And we'd love to hear about, I know I just asked you 47 questions, but I'd love to hear about all of that kind of deal. So we'll go one at a time. Like, how's the family life going?
Yeah, so the family life is great. So before I was in treatment, it wasn't so great. I have 4. My son's turning 4 very soon. So I didn't, and he was alive throughout all my addiction. And I love my child, of course, but I was not connecting with him in the way that I wanted to as a father. And to start with him, like, I remember when I left, I just told myself, like, do it. If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your child. And thank God I did do it for myself, because that's what ended up happening for me. And the relationship is, it's hard to describe how fulfilling that relationship is when you see someone that you never want to hurt them, of course, and you only love them, and then when you see them look at you like they are actually looking at you and learning from you and respect you, it's amazing, and it's something where I know for a fact I would not be able to give to my son what I do without being sober. Like, there was no, I can't even tell you the amount of times where, like, when I was using, that it would just be like, go away, like whatever I have to do to go use, like that's what I do. So now it's like I take him to the pool every single day. He wakes up, he runs to me, not my wife. So, like, we just have an amazing relationship. So, that's there. And then, obviously, like, when my wife, when I was going through addiction, like it was very hard. I can never really understand what I put her through. I think that's just going to be something that I have to live with, because it's not me, right? So, like, she has her own experience with my addiction than I have. So something that's been really important for me is to make sure that I give her what she needs now. But the fact is that, like, I have the ability now emotionally to do that. Whereas in the past, I didn't. It was more, Andy, as you know, like when we're using, we blame everyone else for our problems. So, that's something where, like, I don't do that anymore. Or at least I try my best not to. And it's been amazing. And we just had so I got back from treatment in July of last year, and my wife was pregnant like towards the end of July, August. So, like, it was amazing. It was one of the best moments.
What a gift.
Yeah. So, like, now it's like we moved to, like, a much nicer place. We have friends. We have just things that we didn't have when I was using. And the bottom line is that, like, I have people that rely on me. And that's something where, like, in the past, I kind of, I didn't ignore it, but I certainly didn't take that responsibility as much as I do now. So I mean, overall, things are
awesome.
all. Yeah.
And I've said this to you before, but, like, one of the reasons that, like, rehabs and 12-step programs and recovery is like still around and thriving is because like reunited families, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what a beautiful thing to see from where I'm sitting. And now, and for you to see, and to look around and be like, hey, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a friend. It's so powerful. And we're so happy for you. Now tell me about, how you balance that, right, with the job, right? How can I be a good father, a good husband, all that stuff, and also be a good employee and work my butt off and make sure I have that balance?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, it's tough. It's certainly tough because, part of my personality as someone in recovery is that like I'm always moving.
Yeah.
Like I'm always wanting to work more and do more. But tying this back into the family is right. Like I work for a family, and like if you would have told me a year and a half ago that that would be the case, like nobody would have thought that, including my
Yeah.
family, right? Like they know. So like, but those relationships have all changed, which has allowed me to, credit to everyone involved, has allowed me to now have a career where like I'm able to provide all these things for my family, right? Like I'm able to to get up and work and work and work. And part of the challenge, I would say, is maintaining that balance, right? And like the way that I do that is that I make sure I put myself first. So I make sure that I'm at the gym every day. I make sure that if I'm feeling stressed out, that I stop, right? Like, and I'm able to do those things because I know that if I don't do that, like I'm not going to have the job a year from now, or
Yeah.
like I'm not going to have the opportunities I have. And it really comes down to, for me at least, is, and I do tell this to people often who ask, like it comes down to knowing what you need and doing it. Like you have to put yourself first, because for so many years, even though we were selfishly putting ourselves first, we weren't actually putting ourselves first. And that's something where, APN really helped me understand that by just like helping me get back to myself. Because at the end of the day, if you love yourself and you take care of yourself, like you're not going to let anything get in the way of that. You're just not. You can fight to the tooth and nail, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be a fight if we do it right.
Absolutely.
Like what I stress to everyone in my life is you have to take care of yourself. If obviously I'm not perfect with it, and there's days where I'll work 14 hours and be stressed out about work. But I can tell you that the amount of times I was stressed out about work now compared to 2 years ago, like is tenfold. Like I haven't, I don't worry about finances anymore. I know I have a secure job. Like I have that blessing, and like I also realize that other people may not have that. And that helps me like understand like what I need to do for myself every single day, like to get up, get healthy. I go to the gym every day between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning, whichever, however it works, but I'm there, and I'm making sure I'm either doing my meetings or my check-ins with my, recovery group. And if I don't do those things, I'm off, and I
Yeah.
know I'm off, and I make sure to get back on very quickly.
Well, what I heard in that answer was just like a huge level of gratitude, right? And just knowing where I'm at and being like super grateful for it. And that and you started to answer it already, but the last question too would be like, what does your recovery life look like? And you've already discussed that with staying connected with some of your alumni buddies and hey, my meetings, but like what does that look like on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is like, speaking of gratitude, like I'm super grateful to obviously everyone at APN for helping me, but also like I feel like it would be wrong to not mention like my parents, who did like tenfold help me through this. Like, they provided so many options for me for help. And since then, like, as a son, you always want to make sure that you are good to your parents. You know what I mean? And like the bottom line is like when those relationships change, everything changes. So part of how that affects my recovery now is, to start there, it's like I have a great relationship with my parents. Like that's something that I never had. I could have never told you when I was younger or through my addiction that was there. And it really truly is there now. So like that's always a good starting point. And like the way that I focus on recovery now is I obviously, besides for the things that I've already mentioned, like I ensure to like check myself, because if I'm at a point where like I'm not checking myself, because I've seen people that don't necessarily do that, and it's tough, like it's tough because it can, people know like addiction could come out of nowhere and you're back. So I make sure to do those self check-ins. Can you help me, like can you repeat the question again so that my
Just like daily basis. I mean, it's perfect what you're saying, but daily basis, what
yeah.
is like recovery? Are
Oh
you,
no, daily,
hey,
yeah,
you go to a
yeah.
meeting? Are you seeing a therapist, sponsor, 12
So
steps? Like,
yeah, so I obviously, like I wake up, I go to the gym, spend a couple minutes with the family, um, and then I work the majority of the day. But I also do, I think in the last 16 months, every day with the exception of maybe 10 days, I do a check-in with people that I was in APN with, and we do, a reading and we share about it, because that's something that we did in APN, right? Like that set the standard for us,
cool.
and that's been amazing because that helps me, like I said, check in where I'm at. And if I'm not doing well, I communicate that. And then I can't even tell you the amount of times that I've been checking in. And as I'm checking in, I'm like, dang, I need a meeting today. So like, so that's something where that's helped me a lot. I do have a sponsor who's great. And I do, go to meetings. I don't go to meetings every single day, but I do make sure to go a couple of times a week because that's something that I need to do. I work a 12-step program, and that's also great because at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier in this call, like when I went to treatment and found those relationships, that was the biggest thing for me. But at the end of the day, the reality is like all of those relationships aren't going to be sustainable long term if both people aren't making an effort, right? So now it's like I'm able to join a recovery community here. I do the APN alumni, and there's always people on there, which is just awesome because you get to hear new people's stories, you get to share it, and you get to share yours. And every time I share my story, it's an inspiration to me. It's not just for other people because it's very easy to forget how things were, versus how things are now. So I make sure to do meetings, and I eat healthy. Like that's something that I never did. Like I gained weight. I think I gained 35 pounds since I've been in treatment.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm not a big guy now, so you can imagine how I looked then. But it's just been a healthy lifestyle. You know, taking care of myself, taking care of people around me, doing what I need to do. And that's the thing is like I know what I need to do, but I only learned that from APN. Like if I didn't have that opportunity to kind of have a gym on premises, do all those things, like everything that we have, helped me, every single day.
Well, what I think is so cool is that like, you're able to take your brokenness. Hey, I was broken. I came to APN. They helped me, let's fix this, right? It's like, hey, we took the car apart. Hey, here's the problem. We need new brakes. We need this, whatever analogy you want to use. And they helped you put it back together. And now you're living, like a purpose-driven life. And now you can use your brokenness to help other people. And like, what a gift. How cool is that, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What are you about to say?
No, yeah, I mean, it's amazing because I've always been the type of person to want to help people. I just didn't have that. I didn't have a platform, and I couldn't help myself. So how am I supposed to help other people? And I didn't know what I was going to help anyone with. Or like it was just this longing inside. But like you said, like circle comes around, and
it's beautiful.
There's nothing, as there's nothing better than helping someone else in recovery.
Yeah, it's that connection that he talked about. But that being said, we're gonna wrap up, and I think what an inspiration you are. What a great story. Like you said, we have alumni calls. So I've been seeing Jason come on the alumni calls regularly since he left APN, and just to see where he was at to where he is now. I mean, the growth is huge, and we just love the fact that we can support our alumni at APN, and he can then support other alumni. Like, how cool is that? But Jason, again, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you sharing this with us. And like we said at the beginning, a special version of the Ask with the alumni kind of twist to it. And check this out. We're going to try to put this out. So try to inspire people to come to APN, people that might need help, or other alumni to just keep getting involved. So that being said, Jason, if you have anything you want to give a quick shout out to anybody, if not, we'll kind of wrap up.
Good. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate that. All right. Thanks, bud.
Take care.